Alright guys, so this episode covers psychedelic therapy. One thing I want to say, these type of things need to be taken extremely serious. There is no easy way out. It's another tool in your toolbox. But if you are a war vet, if you are someone with extreme PTSD for any other reason, if you have drug addiction, think about these things as an option. Take the proper routes. Do what you can. You don't have to be miserable forever. There is hope. There is light at that tunnel. Only other thing I could say is enjoy Tony's story. He fought for our country. He's on a healing journey, and this is a phenomenal episode. So you know what I'm going to say next. Get you a coffee, pour you a drink. Enjoy the episode. All right, Tony, welcome back.
Thanks. What's going on?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
So we might as well recap.
Yeah.
A little bit from the first time you were here. You had just recently retired. You were starting to try and readjust to a civilian society.
Yes.
And how's this last year been?
It's been bumpy, to say the least. Yeah. It's been pretty rough, honestly. I thought I was doing good, and I thought I was doing all right, but yeah, I suppose I wasn't. I guess I'll just say it. I got addicted to opiates.
Yeah.
Addicted to opiates, and I kind of was very surprised at how quickly I got addicted and how strong it was.
Yeah.
Because I've done a lot. You name it, I've done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, every time if I decide, I don't want to do this anymore, I just fucking stop. You know what I mean? Couldn't do it this time. Yeah, just couldn't do it. That kind of has been driving me. I would say right now I'm probably the healthiest I've been, and that's due to a trip I took to Mexico. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you hear about this?
So actually, the way I heard about it was I have a friend of mine who was also a ranger, and he, I'd actually sometime last year, I kind of cut him off because he was drinking way too much. He was the type of person who drinks from the morning they wake up to the morning they go time to go to sleep. And so it was difficult to be around him. And I have a friend that when I got out of the Army, he drank himself to death. And I just, I said, I'm not going to do this again, And he wasn't being very nice to me either, so made it a little bit easier. But he, over the holidays, he had reached out to me, and he wrote me a letter. He wrote it, with his hand. Not like type it or text it,
Like 1980?
Yeah, exactly. And he dropped it in my mailbox. And I read it. And I said, you know what? I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not messing with him. And I kind of thought about it a little bit, and I said, the guy wrote a letter. You know what I mean? Like, nobody does that anymore. You know what I mean? So I said, I'm gonna hear what he has to say. And so I reached out to him. He said, hey man, I'm completely alcohol free. And I said, that's great, man. Thinking, yeah, okay, good for you. Like, we'll see in a few months.
Yeah.
And he explained that he went down to Mexico and he did some psychedelic therapy in Mexico. And when he came back, he didn't want to touch a drop to drink. And I said, okay. And I guess at this point, people were kind of starting to notice, that I was addicted. I thought I was doing great,
Right. We always do in those moments,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I thought I was like, hey, everything's good. Bills are paid. Nobody notices. He had heard that I've been, having a tough time.
Yeah.
And so he said, hey, I really think this is something for you. And so he told me about it. It's the name of the place that he went was Ambio Life Science, and it's down in Tijuana, Mexico, right? Already sounds pretty sketchy, right? And I did a bit of research, and I said to him, I said, look at me, man. I said, is this really work, or are you bullshitting me right now?
Right.
Have you really stopped drinking, or are you just playing right now? He said, no, I swear to you. And I'll tell you, this guy he's probably, out of all the Rangers that got out and stayed here, he has probably had the toughest time out of all of them.
Right.
And for him to say that, and for him to be able to do that, he actually, just the other day, bought his first house for his family, which is amazing.
Oh.
So he's doing phenomenal. And so he said, no, I wouldn't lie to you. And I did my research, and it was actually just recently on Joe Rogan podcast too. So obviously that adds some some weight behind it,
Yeah.
you know. And so I said, okay. And at this point, you know, I tried quitting opiates quite a few times, and I just couldn't. And I said, you know, maybe this is the way I do it, you know. And so, you know, he had linked me up with somebody from Navarre, and they also did DMT retreats and stuff like that. And and so I met with this guy and another guy up in Alabama, and you know, I wasn't supposed to be on anything. I was supposed to have stopped everything for like 5 days prior, but of course,
Right.
I lied.
Kind of hard.
Yeah. So I lied, and the guy that was administering the DMT, he had said to me, you know, hey, like, what are you addicted to? And I said, yeah, you know, just some pain pills. And he goes, is it the blues? You know, so, yeah, it's those. And so
What was that, Oxy?
So it's meant to look like 30 milligram Percocet, but in all actuality, they're fentanyl.
Oh,
yeah.
Like dark web.
Yeah. So
smuggled across the border shit.
I mean, I don't know how they make it or where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's definitely fentanyl.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he had been addicted to it as well, and so I said, okay, somebody who's been around then, and he said, are you going to Ambio? And I said, yeah, I think I am. And this man doesn't know me, didn't know me before that, checked in on me every single day. Which, I mean, I love my friends and my family, but nobody else did that. You know?
Right.
Nobody else did that. Nobody wanted to make sure that I was doing okay. And so he helped me get into Ambio a little bit quicker. And within 3 weeks, I was in Mexico, you know. And so, I mean, so real quick, I mean, what I was going to do was something called Ibogaine. And it's considered the Mount Everest of psychedelics.
Right.
And so, of course, I was like, well, push come to shove. At least if I don't get better, I'll have a good time, you know. And so yeah, it's Ambio Life Science. It's kind of the authority on all things Ibogaine and kind of how to utilize it and administer and stuff like that. And so they're really a trusted company, and so I felt good. Now, so the problem is obviously they don't do this for free, right?
Right.
And so for veterans and stuff like that, it's about $4,000. For people who are not veterans, it's about $8,000.
Wow.
And so, of course, I don't, you know, I mean, I could probably have paid $4,000, but it would have been kind of a financial hardship for me for some months afterwards. So not only did they put me in touch with Ambio Life Science, they also put me in touch with a nonprofit organization called VETS. And this nonprofit organization, typically they'll give grants, but I think because of the popularity of Ambio Life Science, because of the Joe Rogan podcast, they were kind of short on money. And they said that what we can do for you is we can give you a no interest loan.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and you have up to 5 years to pay it back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which certainly I'm trying to pay back a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And obviously leave a bit more money. But so they gave me the money, and then I gave the money to Ambio Life Science, and and so I guess I'll just go through it, kind of everything from beginning to end. You know, so I fly to San Diego. I stay the night in San Diego, and the next morning I wake up, and I wasn't able to get a hotel room at the hotel where they meet everybody, so I took an Uber to the hotel. And then 2 white Suburbans with Baja, Mexico plates show up, and it's 2 Mexican guys, and they're like, all right, and take a roll call and stuff like that. And so, I mean, again, you know, like there's little voices in your head. They're saying, white Suburbans, Mexico plates. You might, this might not be good, but you know,
I might not be coming back with both kidneys.
Right, exactly. But I mean, you know, anybody that knows me knows that you know anything I do, I go all the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, from my military career to even going out and having a good night, which is sometimes a great thing and sometimes a really bad thing, right?
Right.
So I said, you know, I chucked it in the fucking bucket and I said, let's go. You know. So
how many people?
So we had 10 people, which apparently it's not typical. They usually have between 6 and 7 people. I think they're trying to do bigger crowds, obviously, to meet demand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't, obviously, I never went when they had 6 or 7 people, but I didn't notice any issues with them having that many people. So it's good. People are still getting the care that they need. But yeah, so these 2 Suburbans show up, and, you know, okay, everyone's got your passport, and we get in there, and we go. And we go across the border. and no issues. And we get to where we're going to be staying at, and it's this beautiful mansion right on the Pacific Ocean in Tijuana.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it has a swimming pool, has a hot tub. I don't know if it's true or not, but they said it used to be owned by a cartel person. Maybe it's part of the allure. You know what I mean? But yeah, and so it had like 10 bedrooms, and like you walk in, and the door is massive. You know what I mean? The door is like the size of a truck. And it opens and stuff like that. And all of the people, the doctors, the nurses, the chefs, everyone that's going to be taking care of you over this next 5 days, a 5-day program, are standing there on the staircase. And it's like, immediately I'm thinking, am I in a reality show?
It's like a very formal greeting.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And so right off the bat, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I mean, everything's marble, everything's beautiful. The first thing I noticed was there were no clocks. No clocks. Which is fine, you know what I mean?
It's like a casino.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you later what it gets into, but it's actually, it was part of all of it.
Right.
So there's no clock, so they come up, and each of them hug you. It's not just like, hi, how you doing? It's like, hi, I'm going to be the PA or the doctor, during days and stuff like that, and they give you a hug and stuff, and we hope that you have a good journey and stuff. They're just very, very understanding. You can tell that these people do it. I mean, everyone does everything for money, right? But you can tell that,
they're passionate.
They are, and they truly care about you.
Yeah.
If they don't, they do a really good job acting.
I think in that situation, you actually have to help people.
Exactly.
You can't fake that.
No, you sure can't. And so, it's cool. And the other thing that I noticed as well, right off the bat, was you can't put toilet paper down the toilets because we're in Tijuana. So we had to wipe our ass, and then we had to put it in a trash can next to the toilet. I don't know why, but I was like, I don't like this.
I actually think I know why. It has to do, so I had a roommate from Ecuador, and we always wondered why he did that. Well, I come to find out, I think they don't have like as big of plumbing pipes coming out.
I think that's what it was. They said something like that.
On a boat. Yeah. You can't really put the toilet paper in there. You're supposed to put it in the trash can. And,
right.
It's just a smaller system.
Right,
it's weird.
But for me, I was like, I wish somebody had told me about that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why it's so weird. Like, but by the end of the 5 days, I was like, and they do have somebody come by that cleans it, but
right.
So then the first thing they do is the nurses, they give you a pair of nurses, and they go and follow you up to your room, and so I understand that this was like a twofold thing, but they went to take my clothes out of my suitcase and fold it up and put it on the shelves in my room. And I was like, oh no, I can do that. And they said, no, it's fine. I mean, the other thing that they use it for is I want to make sure I'm not bringing anything silly in there.
Sure.
Sure. It'd be pretty counterproductive if I was trying to get off opiates and then bring opiates there.
Right.
And so, but still, nonetheless, like that was another thing that was kind of hard for me to get over. It was like, I don't, as men particularly, right? We take care of people. Right?
Yeah.
Rarely does somebody check and see, are you okay? Do you need something?
Right.
Maybe you've got a good spouse, significant other that does this, and if you do, goodness gracious, hold on to that. But but men in general, I mean, we are so ingrained into taking care of people, protecting people, and we rarely let people take care of us.
Well, especially after having your time in the service.
Yeah.
If you live exactly. You watched over each other, but you got to watch your own ass. Take care of yourself.
Exactly. And so. That was the other thing. The other hurdle that was difficult for me to get over was, letting people take care. And even, so the great thing about, going back a little bit, but vets and MBO. So when vets said, okay, we'll give you the money, what they also did is they gave me a coach, like a mentor, a coach.
Okay.
And they also gave me a peer mentor, so somebody else that had been through the same thing, kind of,
okay.
And to talk with me and stuff. And both of them said, hey, be prepared to be pampered and taken care of. And they said, just let go. I was like, oh, yeah, sure, But like, I mean, they really do. So these are the first few things that I noticed as soon as I walk in, and go up, and we do that, and then we go down and we start doing medical stuff. They do heart. Ibogaine is it's hard on the heart.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So they do EKGs to make sure that you are set to take it. And they do blood work, obviously. They do piss tests and stuff like that. See, you have to be off of opiates. I think something like 15 days. So that was that was very, very difficult. But even then, the people from vets, the woman, she told me, because I tried to get off opiates prior, and she said, hey, listen, have you tried megadose vitamin C? And I said, no. And so she said, every 3 hours, you're going to take 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C. I said, you mean every day? And she said, no, every 3 hours.
8 times a day.
At this point, I was so desperate, I would try anything.
Right.
And she goes, just so you know, you're going to shit your brains out, too.
Right. It's kind of purging your body. There.
Yeah, but it was, honestly, like, I wished I'd known about that sooner, because it was difficult, but the withdrawal symptoms were far more manageable.
Right.
So I was able to legitimately get off opiates, but that fentanyl's so strong, like even 15 days later, I'm still feeling it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was difficult, but that was, every step of the way, there was somebody there to answer questions. There was somebody there to offer support. There was somebody there to kind of help you along the way, which was really great. And I just forever am grateful for that. I've never had anything like that in my life. But yeah, so anyways, we do the medical stuff, and they do all that stuff, make sure everyone's okay. I believe at that point we have lunch. Yeah, had lunch, and they bring out the food, and man, I tell you what, these chefs they're amazing, and they're there all the time to make us whatever we want. But their meals were so great. It was like pretty much like farm to table food. The juices were all fresh squeezed. They squeezed them right there. It was a 2-course meal or a 3-course meal, and it was just amazing, just absolutely amazing. Every time they brought food, I was just like, whoa. And I'm a big boy. I was eating a lot and stuff like that. While I was there, I gained about 15 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And because they always have food out and stuff like that, stuff to snack on. The other thing I noticed was all organic. There's no processed sugars, things like that. So they're setting you up for success. They're making not only your mind better, but they're helping your body to feel better too, by forcing you to do that. So yeah, after that, we went to a woman's house. Got in the Suburbans again. We went to this old Lakota woman's house, and we did a Lakota sweat lodge. And so, there's 10 of us, and she had made this sweat lodge. She had taken sticks and wove them together, and then she'd taken like moving blankets and put them over the top. And she had like a little pit in the middle, and she explained the significance of the sweat lodge, how we were. It was cleansing us for our journey. Right. And it was an hour long, and every 15 minutes she would sing, and she would pray to the stars, the moon, the father, the mother, essentially praying. What I mean? And praying for our safe journey. Yeah. And it was at that moment when I was in the sweat lodge, and we were all cramped in there, like super tight, it's super uncomfortable, and it's meant to be that way. And
how hot was it?
It was,
for an hour? That's a long time.
Well, every 15 minutes they'll open the door and they'll put more rocks in. They heat up rocks. Okay. And they'll throw water on it and stuff like that. For me, it wasn't that bad, but I do hot yoga. So
yeah, that's what you intend.
Yeah, exactly. So it was more being cramped in there, and you couldn't stand up in it. It was like you had to crawl in there.
Really?
But it was at that moment. Excuse me. It was at that moment that I realized that was when it kind of hit me, like, you're about to do some pretty fucking cool shit. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, this is going to be like, I think it was at that point I realized this was going to change my life.
Yeah.
And it certainly did. So then we finished that, and afterwards they brought fruit and stuff like that out. It was a very nice woman, and her and her husband and stuff like that. And I was walking, it was really kind of cool. I said, hey, can I use your bathroom? And she said, oh yeah, it's in the house right to the right there, And so I walked by, and I see this little pot with these cactuses in it. And I looked down, and I said, that's peyote,
Oh, it was like a little...
Yeah, it was peyote. And so I said to the woman, is this peyote? And she goes, yes, it is. I said, that's very cool. And I'd never seen peyote live, like real.
I've only seen pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was really cool to see. But yeah, we did that. We go back to the house afterwards. We have dinner. Again, phenomenal meal. We kind of start integrating with each other, learning a little bit about each other. And, typically a lot of people that go to Ambio Life Science are veterans. But it is available for people who are not veterans, people who want to get help. And so I think, I was able to get in so quick. They put me in a group that was primarily people who were not in the military.
Okay.
Which didn't bother me at all. I don't care.
Right.
I was there to get help. But yeah, so it was, it was a little bit different for me. And they all had, stories that would break your heart. People would just, all of us there were at our wits' end.
A lot of drama.
A lot of trauma, a lot of things that brought us there. And that was really that was the name of the game, was not just getting us off whatever we were doing or dealing with what we were dealing. It was dealing with the trauma that brought us there. Obviously, veterans tend to have very similar stories and stuff like that. But it was very interesting to hear, different people's stories and stuff like that. There was even a young kid from Massachusetts, which is where I'm originally from, and he was only 23 years old. And I said, "What are you doing here, man? Why? There's no way you could have lived a life where something has bothered you this bad." And I mean, I'm not going to tell his story or anything, but
right.
he had some stuff. He had some stuff, and it's kind of weird because my son's 18, so he kind of reminded me of him and stuff. And so it's kind of I didn't take him under my wing, but I kind of just stayed close to him and stuff like that. And he's asking all these questions. And stuff all the time. It was very funny. But yeah, so we kind of get to know each other. We have that meal. And so I think it's around this part where they kind of tell you to give up your phone. And of course, this is we're so attached to our phones.
Yeah.
Everything is just everything goes through that. And everyone at this point I was just I was ready. And so here you go. Everyone's sending out their last text. It's fine. You know what I mean? And so, and I think that's, once the phone went away, I think that's when I was able to finally relax. And it was at that moment I said, okay, yeah, I have responsibility, but I can't do shit about that right now.
Right.
I need to take care of me. That's why I'm here. I had, my son's 18, so he's old enough to take care of himself, but I certainly had friends that were, checking in on him and stuff like that. My two kids in Germany, they have their wonderful mother to take care of them and stuff like that, and she knew what I was doing. And so I said, okay, let me just let go. And that's honestly the hardest part, is letting go. And I did. And I think by the end of the evening, I was already in sweats. Wasn't wearing shoes anymore. I was just walking around like it was my house and stuff like that, just really relaxing. And they had one TV room, but we really didn't watch TV. It was more or less for, they had a few documentaries that they had us watch and stuff.
Okay.
And I think one evening we watched some movies, but they want you to watch very light stuff, so they don't want you to not war dramas or anything like that.
Nothing that's going to trigger.
Disney movies is what we watched.
Right.
We watched Moana. I remember. And so that was just, it was they're kind of putting us back into being children a bit,
Yeah.
They're taking away our responsibility. The clocks weren't there, so we didn't know what time it was. Certainly if we asked somebody, they would tell us. But yeah, so, we're not worried about time. Be like, okay, well, hey, here and now we're going to do this. Well, I don't have don't worry, we'll come get you. Literally, if you're in your room, they come up and get you.
Right.
And so you didn't have to worry about literally anything, which was, again, you think that'd be so easy for me. It's not. It's really, really not.
Not if you're a driven person.
Right, yeah. And so you're like, man, okay. But I by the end of the evening, I let go. And, in the evenings and stuff like that, they check your heart, and stuff like that, do blood pressure and stuff, and they'll give you some meds. And they have a proprietary blend of kind of relaxation meds. It's all, herbs and natural stuff. And they give you that. And I fell asleep very, very easy. And, of course, no need to wake up until you're ready to wake up or they wake you up. So there's no phone, anything like that. And I remember after the first night, I was like, okay, it was very easy for me to fall asleep, which is not something that I've been able to do for a long time.
I bet.
Yeah. And so it was very easy for me to fall asleep, waking up in the morning. When the sun came up, that's when I woke up. It was my body, its circadian rhythm was already being reset.
Right.
And so that was really neat to me. And I appreciated that. And so then the next day is Ibogaine day. It's Ibogaine night. I'll just give a little bit of background about the Ibogaine. Ibogaine is a African root from Gabon, Africa. The tribe, the Bawiti tribe, they're the ones who harvest it and utilize it for ceremonies, things like that. And it's just a very, very powerful hallucinogen. And so The Bwiti tribe, obviously, it's gotten out and stuff like that, and so people are now starting to learn about it. And so that day, it's a chill day. We eat breakfast. After breakfast, we fast. We don't eat anything for lunch and dinner because the Ibogaine typically makes people purge and vomit. And so obviously they want to keep that to a minimum. Like they want you to purge.
Right.
Because it's good for you.
Just not violently.
Right. And not so violently. Much. Right. Yeah. And so we all meet with so there's different people. There's two people there that kind of like the house parents, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of were assigned to one per, and we went and talked with them. They kind of, the big thing that they harp on when you go there is set intentions before your journey.
Yes.
And that honestly, that was hard for me. That was very, very difficult for me because I didn't want to. I knew I was doing something big, and I didn't want to squander it. I didn't want to waste it.
Right.
And I wanted to make the most out of it, and I kind of overthink it. You know what I mean? And so I kind of was going too deep with my intentions as far as very particular. Like,
I was going to say too specific.
Yeah, is what it was, exactly. So I eventually stamped those out and figured that out and stuff like that and kind of made them a little bit more attainable and stuff. And the thing about Ibogaine is they say, you may meet your intentions during your journey. You may not. You know what I mean? It's not, and I realized this once I took the Ibogaine, it's not what you want to do when it comes to the Ibogaine, it's what the Ibogaine wants you to do.
Yeah.
So it knows exactly what you need and what to do to fix you. And so, yeah, we kind of did that. We talked with, spent an hour talking with our people and, kind of just sat around the house, drinking water, allowed to drink water. And then, so that evening around 8 p.m., we had a burn circle, which is they made a fire outside, and we wrote things on a list that we wanted to let go of. Mm-hmm. And for me, I said, I don't like the idea of letting go of something. I want to say, I want to remember this stuff, but I want to take the power away from it.
Right.
I don't want the power to be there anymore to make me sad, to make me angry, to, whatever reaction that would have me do. And so I wrote my things on a list, and we burned it right before, and then afterwards, each of the nurses and doctors, and I think even the chefs were there too, gave us big heart hugs and stuff like that. And then we took our first pill of Ibogaine. So, first pill, you wait an hour, okay? You take 4 pills altogether.
Okay.
So, first pill, and then wait an hour. After that, you take another pill, and then 15 minutes later, you take a third pill. Between the second and third pill is where I kind of started to feel it. And I was like, oh boy. And I mean, the best way, the coming up kind of felt a lot like psilocybin, like mushrooms. And that's kind of where I was a little anxious. Okay, what's going to happen? And so between that second and third, and then I took that third. And then the fourth one, you take 15 minutes from that. And they mix it with honey and stuff like that. They put it all, it's really cute. And so we took that fourth pill. And then they had a room set up with mattresses and stuff like that. And at the end of the mattress was a mirror, you had a maraca, and you had a little altar. So they had a nice bouquet of flowers. And then you were able to put down, I put a picture of me and my kids.
Oh, that's cool.
I put a bracelet that my son had given me. And so I had that down. It just kind of reminds you. I don't know I know you've probably done some hallucinogens, but kind of like the rule is you don't ever look in the mirror when you go to the bathroom.
It's scary.
Yeah. So, but literally,
if you ever want to see yourself look like a cartoon,
right? Exactly. So the first 15, 20 minutes, you're looking in a mirror and you're shaking this maraca, right? So one of the things it does is it has a lot of auditory hallucinations.
Really?
And you start hearing this buzzing in your brain. It sounds like a saw or sander or something, and it's kind of like very like, okay, what's going on? And, it kind of like starts taking over. And when you're shaking that maraca, they play Bwiti music. I can't describe Bwiti music any other way. It's like dubstep without the step. It's just like,
Right.
And it kind of goes with that buzzing.
The kind of trancey parts of it.
Yeah, well, it's not fun to listen to at all. It's really difficult. Like, I think maybe about halfway through the night, I was so angry. I was like, please just fucking stop this music. Jesus Christ. But I think that's the way they kind of pay homage to Bwiti. And then they changed the playlist after about 2 or 3 hours. But so you hear this buzzing in your head, right? And so I'm shaking this maraca and stuff like that. I'm looking at the mirror. I'm like, we're all fucked up. You know what I mean? Everybody's kind of has that should I lay back? Should I do it? Nobody wants to be the first. It was funny. So the young guy that I told you about from Massachusetts, he just very inquisitive. He's kind of very anxious and wanted to know everything. He kept asking me questions like, oh, what's everyone else doing? What's happening now? Blah, blah, blah. And I was trying to help him out. But then after a while, I realized I'm fucked up too. And I looked at him and I said, hey, bro, we are doing the same thing for the first time together. And I said, have a good trip. And I put my eye mask on and I laid down. I was like, it was him reminding me of my son that made me really want to
right.
But I realized that was the point of them taking the phone away. I shouldn't.
It was your parental instinct to try and continue being like you normally are.
Right. And I mean, I certainly didn't be like, F you, kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'd help him out when I could, but I wasn't trying to. I was trying to focus on me.
You had to immerse yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so the cool thing about Ibogaine is the hallucinations will not come to you if your eyes are open.
I was going to ask about the mask.
Yeah.
I think I've seen some documentary where people were in the mask, so it's mostly closed-eye.
Yep, and it's kind of a cool thing. It's like a little fail-safe. Like, if things become too intense, you just pop your mask up, open your eyes, and it'll go away.
That's crazy.
Which is cool. So, it kind of, it gives you a little bit of reassurance, like, hey, if things get too heavy, I can just open my eyes. And so I put my mask on, and the first thing I see is just, gold dust kind of swirling around. What? And I was like, oh, okay. And then it kind of fades away, and I see this, I'm underneath this large snake. It's red, and its skin's translucent, and I can see through the skin. There's light over the skin, and I see, skull and crossbones all throughout the snake.
Holy shit. And
I was like, okay, let's go, bro. And so I'm like, okay, I think I know what that's about, you know what I mean? And so then it starts going to, I start finding myself in bedrooms that I grew up. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. And so different bedrooms I grew up in. So I started it would be and I was in another room, and these were all rooms that I grew up in. And I was like, okay, all right.
They probably looked exactly like they did then, right?
Well, there were some
chain.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff. I mean, it wasn't exactly. You could tell it was that room, but it wasn't exact. No.
Right.
No.
Just super familiar.
Yeah, exactly. And so, during this time, I'm kind of going through these different rooms, and I'm just trying to understand. And then I have this. There's this woman who starts shooting out of my hallucinations and getting up in my face, right? And I'm obviously scared. And I didn't realize I did this, but they told me, some of the other guys that were there told me that I did it. But there was this one time where she shot out of my hallucination and came over to my ear and started like that. And I go, what the fuck do you want? And I thought it was in my head that I said that. They were like, dude, are you okay? And so, this woman, she was a young African woman, and they told you might get a Bwiti guide, and she was my Bwiti guide.
Okay.
And I realized, so one of the things they teach you is when things get kind of heavy, try to avoid taking the mask off, because if you're not seeing your hallucinations, you're not fucking learning.
Right.
And so they taught you how to breathe and stuff like that. Well, I wasn't breathing, and what she was doing was she was trying to get me to breathe. And so if I was breathing, she wouldn't come out, or if I saw her and I started breathing, she'd go back away.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? And so that was really neat, and so I was really thankful for that. And the evening goes on. So there is one more pill that you can take. It's called the booster, and it's generally for people who aren't really feeling the medicine. It kind of seemed like I was having a mild effect compared to a lot of the other people. So I went ahead and asked for the booster, and I mean it. I was the only person who did it.
Really?
So, yeah, I was the only person out of everybody who did it. And the other thing, too, is the Ibogaine makes you puke. People were vomiting all around me. And the funny thing, there was one funny thing that happened.
You were probably tripping so hard, it didn't even bother you.
Well, I mean, I heard everyone vomiting, and I was like, why am I not vomiting? Should I vomit? Should I make myself vomit? And I was like, nah, just keep rolling. So there was this one person who was vomiting, and they would vomit, bleh, and then after each time they'd burp. And I was like so sure that it was an auditory hallucination. Like nobody could perfectly heave like that and then burp perfectly every time.
Right.
I found out the next day. I talked to that guy. He's like, yeah, no, I was burping every time. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, I was impressed. So everyone's vomiting and stuff like that. Oh, the other thing that Ibogaine does is it gives your body ataxia. Essentially, what this is your muscle. The best way I can describe it is I think it's kind of like CP. Where your kind of muscles aren't really working, and it's really difficult to walk or move or do anything. Motor skills are gone.
Yeah.
That's why it's not. I think I'm thankful that exists. It makes it a bit more difficult, but it'll make it difficult for people to utilize it in a recreational manner.
Right. It's not known for that.
No,
from my understanding.
Yeah. No, you should not ever recreationally use Ibogaine. It's just that there's so many medical things that could go on. They had us hooked up to a heart monitor
the whole time.
The whole time. They had doctors and nurses walking around.
I heard that's the only safe way to do it.
It is,
and that's what they say. Like they're telling people not to get carried away. Don't get your hands on it. Go to these retreats because you need to be monitored.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just super sketchy. They have to. Now, then the reason is so just so people listening know, it's not that it's going to cause some catastrophe unless you're not being monitored.
Right.
They can fix you like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they have straight up like PAs who are, heart specialists and stuff like that, cardiologists and stuff. So you're very, very, very safe. You really don't have really a whole lot to worry about, So the Ibogaine gives you ataxia. So, I have a very small bladder and I have to pee a lot. And I felt so bad for these nurses because every time I had to raise my hand over, and then they literally had to hold my hands. It was like I was like a baby walking for the first time. I was like, I got this.
You get there, you smile.
Yeah, right. And so I was going to the bathroom and stuff. So it gives you ataxia and makes you vomit. We're all hallucinating. I take the booster. Booster does a little bit for me, kind of keeps me where I'm at. Doesn't really do anything extra.
Right.
And I've always been the type of person that metabolizes drugs a lot quicker. It hits me usually before everyone, and I'm usually done way before everybody.
Yeah, just high metabolism, probably.
Yeah.
It really does.
No difference here.
Yeah.
So, and so most people the next day, they feel like shit. They say the hangover is the worst. People they can't sleep, but they feel like shit and they want to sleep, and they don't want to eat. That was not the experience I had. So first off, everyone says, they have, it's a horrible, terrible experience. I kind of had fun. And I think, I don't know if it's from, years of doing hallucinogens, but there was this part of my brain that was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of scary and that kind of sucked to see, but this is all hallucination. It's not real.
Right.
And you could tell other people weren't able to put themselves there. I didn't vomit, which I was thankful for, and so the next morning, somewhere around 6 a.m., everyone's still laying on their beds, got their masks on. I'm like shit, I think I'm done, I flip my mask off and I call one of the nurses over and I said, hey, I'm really hungry. And she goes, you're hungry? And I said, yeah, can I get some food? And she said, yeah, sure. Are you going to eat it? I said, that was the plan. So she goes, well, I have to give you a smoothie first. And I said, okay. And she goes, what kind of smoothie? I was like, what do you got? And she starts naming all of them off. And she said, mango. I said, I'll have mango. And so she brought me the smoothie. Everyone's still laying in their beds, hallucinating. And I've got this mango smoothie. And I'm starving. And I'm thirsty. And so I'm sucking it down. And so I'm making the rude noise of, And
were you guys in like a dorm area?
It was just almost like just a room.
Like an open area?
Yeah, it was just a room. And so, I could reach over and touch the person.
Really?
Yeah. And so the next day people were like, bro, I felt like you were sucking my brains out. That's what that sounded. I was like, I'm sorry. I was really, really hungry. And so then after the smoothie, I called the nurse over again. I said, can I get regular food now? She goes, really? I said, yeah. She goes, what do you want? I said, I'll have an omelet. And she goes, what do you want on it? I said, everything. I said, everything. She said, Mr. Tony, you're not going to eat all that. I said, watch me. I'm hooked up to the heart monitor still. I've got my IV in. Everyone's still hallucinating with their masks on, and I'm just going ham on this freaking omelet. You know what I mean? I'm just crushing it. And so I ate, and like I said, people don't like to eat afterwards. They don't feel hungry. I think I ate 6 or 7 times that day.
Whoa.
Yeah. And yeah, I gained 15 pounds while I was there, no surprise. And so I had to go, I was outside, I went outside, and even though one of the kind of house parents or whatever, she came and sat with me outside, and she goes, "How do you feel?" I said, "Great." I said, "Am I not supposed to feel good?" She goes, "Yeah, no, it's very strange."
Really?
Yeah, she said, "It's not typical that people feel like that." And I said, "Eating?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "You're like an anomaly. That never happens." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Did I do it wrong? Did I not get enough?" She says, "No. How do you feel?" I said, "I don't know yet."
Right.
I still was a bit skeptical at this point.
Well, it takes. I just read it before you came over. Yeah. It can last 24 to 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
So you were still chilling.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, I was still under the influence. It just wasn't like we weren't peaking at this point,
Yeah.
I was still having issues walking a bit. The nurses kept having to yell at me because I kept running. And I think that probably should have been the first thing that made me realize that I was doing better. I was like this kid who was just seeing everything for the first time.
Right.
And it was just so great. The food tasted amazing. Everything was just so beautiful. The sun was beautiful.
Colors more vibrant.
Absolutely.
Really.
Yeah, it was insane. And so everyone kind of they're like, I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Or, shut up. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with me at that point. So yeah, it was pretty intense. I would say my hallucinations, they left a lot more questions than they did answers. A lot more questions than they did answers, for sure. Because I wasn't able to really connect them very easily. And I've done it now a bit, but yeah, I was kind of like, huh. And then I think the fact that my reaction to the drug was different than everybody else's kind of, it raised a lot more questions in my mind as well, and so, it was kind of interesting, but, and at the time, in my head, I was far more skeptical than I was the next day, but I was like, maybe. I kind of put myself, I was like, if you had some shit to do right now, would you do it? I was like, I might, and I just kind of
I see. Yeah. Testing your mentality.
You're right, exactly. And I was like, okay, well, but I did notice that, my body aches were gone, wasn't really feeling that anymore. And so we went to bed that night. Next morning we wake up, which is DMT day. And so everyone's feeling great at this point. Everyone's kind of where I was the day before.
Right.
Now, everyone's got people that, you didn't see smile at all. Biggest smile on their face. We had people who were 2-pack-a-day smokers. And I even went to that because I used to be a big smoker, and I quit 4 years ago. And I went to them and I said, "Do you guys want to smoke?" And they said, "No." I said, "Are you just saying that because you're here?" You know what I mean?
Did they let them take cigarettes?
Yeah, they're allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, they're allowed to have cigarettes. Cigarettes, dip, whatever. And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Really, dude?" No. And they did. I mean, I couldn't tell you now. I kept contact with a couple people, but to go from a 2-pack day smoker, and if you're a smoker, ever were a smoker, you know that that's some serious addiction right there.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
You always have one lit at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. And so for them to do that, that was kind of like, wow, this shit has got a lot of implications. And it was at that point where I was a little bit bummed that I did everything I did for my country, and now my country won't let this drug that's not only helped me, but very famous war heroes like Marcus Luttrell from Lone Survivor, guys like this and stuff like that. And our government is still no, we consider a Schedule 1 substance. Yep. Schedule 1 substance means that it has no medicinal value.
Which is ridiculous. It was because they included it in the Sweeping Psychedelics Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without even considering the fact that it's not even that pleasant.
Yeah, no. I had a very decent experience. I don't know that it would be if I'm Saturday night, let me go do some
Right,
probably not. You know what I mean? If I was going through some shit, then yeah, maybe it'd be I need this. I need to take. So more like a medicine. You know what I mean? More like I'm not going to take NyQuil unless I don't feel good and I need to sleep. Right. So it made me kind of bummed and a little bit upset. That the America is not on board, and as much as I hate to say it, it's big pharma.
Yes, it is, because there's no money in cures.
Right, and that's the thing is they say so. I mean, I'm spitballing the percentages here, but they say 80% of people who do Ibogaine the first time, they are healed from whatever it is that is bothering them.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, some like either addiction, PTSD, things like that, and so they say I think it's like 96% of people who do it twice are then kind of cured. So I mean, like those statistics don't lie, you know what I mean? And like, why shouldn't they be looking at it? You know, it's kind of it's really sad. It makes me angry. You know what I mean? That I did so much for this country is freedom, right? Freedom, right?
Yeah.
Just wasn't feeling it after that. Wasn't feeling the freedom, you know, that I have to go to Tijuana, a place that's notoriously a violent place with a lot of bad things and stuff like that. So, I mean, you know, I didn't feel like my life was in danger at all, but, you know, people do die over there quite frequently. So, like, I have to risk my life to go get the help I need.
Yeah.
It upset me. It upset the heck out of me. Still does. But yeah, Texas just recently they made it legal to do research on Ibogaine about 3 weeks ago, which is incredible, and I hope that it gains traction and it's going to help tons and tons of people.
Yeah.
But anyways, go back to next day and stuff like that, DMT day,
which is dimethyltryptamine, right?
Yes, correct. Or the God molecule, if you will.
Yep.
And so I'd actually done it once before, and so everyone was kind of scared, and I was like, yeah, you guys, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And mind you, people do have bad trips on it, but it's kind of, they need to have it, you know what I mean? And they need to see this stuff, you know what I mean? And so I was very excited, and everyone's just like, it was kind of like, you know, everyone was kind of sitting in a courthouse waiting to, you know, get sentenced or something, you know what I mean? And I was sitting over there giddy as heck, you know? So I was like, let's go, you know?
They were scared.
Yeah, and so I would say that that experience was far better than my first experience. My first experience, I was still in active addiction, and my heart wasn't really open to it yet, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with it. And so basically, you know, they had 2 separate rooms set up, and the owner of Ambio Life Science was one of the ones administering the DMT, and there was another guy, his name is Slider, and he was a pilot, a Navy pilot in the beginning of the war.
Okay.
And so, really cool dude, had a Grateful Dead shirt on, so I knew right away that was my dude.
Yeah.
I got to talk with him a bit, and then we went to the room, and he hit me with the DMT. Now, you're allowed to have 2 hits per session. And so they tell you, like, hey, you don't need to speak or anything. If you need the other hit, just do more, sign language for more, and we'll give it to you. So, I took my first hit, and I laid back, and I kind of, okay, this is nice. And about 4 minutes into it, I said, this could be nicer. So, like I said, everything I do to the extreme, and so I hit him with the more. And so he went ahead and gave me another hit. And when that one happened,
blast off.
It was absolutely insane. It was probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced. And I wish, this is the one thing since I've done DMT that I've truly struggled, is to try to explain it in a way that people will understand. And it's just not easy. You really have to do it to understand it. And but the owner of Ambio Life Science, he probably did the best analogy that I've been able to come across. And that imagine that you're a drop of water, and for about 20 minutes you get to experience what it's like to be the whole ocean.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and so it truly is. Like, I mean, in that moment, for me, in that moment, I was swimming in a cosmic, like, pool of stars and planets and stuff like that, and I truly felt connected to every single living being on the planet. I mean, it's hard to comprehend. It's hard to understand. It's hard to put somebody else in those shoes if they have not done it.
Right.
And it just was a very beautiful experience. And, kind of embarrassing, but I moaned and was touching myself, And I remember when I came out of it finally, I kind of laid there and the window was open. You could see the ocean. As at that point, I said, this is it. This is what I needed. And I just started laughing, like a deep, pure belly, real laugh. for about 2 to 3 minutes. You know what I mean? And the guy Slider, he said, it's easy, isn't it? It's so simple. We make it so hard. And I said, yeah. And it really is like all this stuff is ego, man. It's like, you got to be able to say like, hey, I need help, or hey, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, or hey, like I don't have this figured out. And it really is so simple, and we have everything we need, and we just we really make it hard on ourselves. And, I mean, it's not all our faults, but there's society that pushes us.
A lot of societal influence in that one, for sure.
Exactly. And so, but once it's kind of like a veil was lifted off my eyes, and it's kind of funny because I try to tell people about my experience, and a lot of them look like I'm a crazy Jesus freak. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of get that look, and they're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, sure,
And that's probably people that have never done psychedelics.
I mean, even people who have, I still
really?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just people are skeptical when you tell them, I've found the secret. You know what I mean? And when you say things like, I found the secret, that also polarizes people. But,
because then they're left out.
Right, yeah. And so, it really, truly, and I tell people, like, I think I'm in a cult now. But it's a cult that actually knows the truth, you know what I mean? So, which I think every cult thinks they do.
The Kool-Aid tastes really good.
Right, exactly. And so, but, I mean, it just, it really changed my life. My life is now split up between life before Mexico and life after Mexico.
I like that.
Yeah, it really is. And I've become completely obsessed with plant medicine. I've got books and books and books on Ibogaine. I've just been perusing through it. The kind of not weird thing, but science they don't understand how it does what it does.
Right.
But they just know it works.
Well, they also know that it's literally rewiring your brain.
It does.
Like, they have done those studies. I don't think it was in America. Because like you said, it just started in America. But I think that they've discovered it really rewires circuitry.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So, not only did it heal my addiction, it also healed my PTSD. So my PTSD is not gone. The things that happened, things that I did, those things happened.
You still lived them.
Yeah, and I understand it. And I think it was about 2 weeks after I got back from Mexico, and I still, every day, like when I think about it, I find new stuff that the medicine's helped me with. I think it was about 2 weeks after, I was like, I'm not holding guilt anymore. I don't feel guilt, And I was like, that's really cool. Because and I think about this, that's ultimately where the pain came from. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that the things happened, the people died, you know what I mean? It was that I felt guilty. And so I was being hard on myself. Yeah. And I was like, man, that's so fucking cool. You know what I mean? That it's just, it did that for me, Yeah. And now I guard my peace with, an iron fist. I'm not trying to pack on more guilt. So I'm trying to keep negative things out of my life, negative people out of my life. I've had to clean up a bit, my friend circle, things like that, which sucks, but at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, this is too, this gift that I got is just worth too much for me to just give away.
Right. You worked too hard for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I really just, I've been guarding it and stuff like that. And I've become obsessed. I have, there's retreats that I go to in different places and stuff like that, where I do the DMT. I'm looking to do Cambo soon, which is, they burn a hole in you, kind of. It's not really terrible, and they put like toad venom in you. It's supposed to clean out your system. And I'm really, really intrigued. I mean, I always heard people talk, oh yeah, psychedelics will heal you. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll play that game too. Let's get high. Right. But like to feel it and see it actually happen, I'm like, holy shit. I was like, wow, this is real. This is really real. And so I've just become absolutely obsessed. I mean, the next thing I want to do is the ayahuasca. But right now we're focusing on moving to Germany. That's what we're doing.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So, what's next?
So yeah, Germany. July is when I'm moving. Me and my son is going to college. He was going to come with me, but he's decided he wants to go to college in New York City. So he's going to go there. But yeah, July, I'm moving over there. I'm just going to kind of pick up and start life there and be with my kids and, do that whole bit. And the great thing is I looked it up, is Ibogaine is not illegal in Germany.
They probably already have treatment centers.
Well, they're doing research.
Okay.
but it's not considered illegal yet.
Right.
So, which is great. And so if I need to revisit that for whatever reason, I can. And I really kind of, because of all this, I really decided that I think I'm going to, once I get settled in Germany, is go to school for social work and somehow or another break into the psychedelic therapy field. Because, and so people are like, oh, what do you want to do? And I think everybody would expect me to be, I want to be one of the people that administers the drug, kind of is there. No, I want to be afterwards.
Right.
And people reintegrate into their life. Because, honestly, out of all the things that, were difficult during this, the reintegration is the hardest part.
Right.
Because I went to Mexico for 5 days. I changed my brain, but nothing else changed.
No, everybody else around you is still the same.
Exactly. So, that's honestly the biggest hurdle, and people drinking around you. I drink a little bit now. It's not really what I went there for, obviously. But I really didn't want to drink right after. But, the difference between before and now is like I can have a beer.
Right.
I don't need to have a ton of drinks. I can have a beer and call it quits.
Yeah.
I can go home. And so that's really nice as well. And I guess the best way to describe what the Ibogaine does is it doesn't make you do anything. What it does is it resets your body to before your body knew what those substances feel like, before your body knew what PTSD felt like, and it allows you to make decisions from that point. And educated decisions.
Right.
Because I know what happened when I did opiates. You know what I mean? I know I became addicted, right? So now, I knew that going into it last time too, but I think there was a part of me that thought that I was bigger and better than that, what I mean? To get addicted. And so, but now I have an educated choice that I can make. Do I want to do that again? Because my body sure as fuck doesn't need it. You know what I mean? And so yeah, and you can pick and choose how you decide to utilize substances if you want to utilize it at all. And it just kind of creates a second chance.
Do you think? So they've found studies that what is it, CTE, chronic traumatic. I'm gonna draw a blank on this. But basically, they're finding that some of even the concussion from war can cause brain injury, like physical brain injury.
Yep.
And they're finding that leads people to be more impulsive. Combine that with the fact that you're used to this exciting life,
right?
Overseas fighting for our country, and of course you're going to end up trying to find some way to make your life exciting again. Yeah. That's why I agree that they need to have this legal for veterans at minimum. And there's also other cases, but let's start with the veterans.
Yeah.
Let's start with them.
Yeah.
We already, think about this, we give military servicemen, we give them the right to go overseas and murder people, but they can't come back home and take a drug?
Yeah, I know. And this
what?
is, I'm not going to dive too deep into how I feel about that, but I'm not happy about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've talked to a few friends, and my one friend who's done it, and I said, imagine if every time we came back from a deployment, instead of just like, hey, are you all right? Yeah, I'm good. They had us go through to Ibogaine. You know what I mean? It certainly would have helped.
Yeah.
It would have been like a way to release kind of everything you just went through.
Yeah.
Or at least begin that process.
Right. Something besides, hey, that a boy, you did good.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so it's just really, I think if Ibogaine ever becomes legal, I think it's going to flip this world on its side. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, again, I know I sound like a crazy Jesus freak, what I mean?
No.
Like, oh, this is going to fix everything.
I agree.
But yeah, I've never had a medicine that's so effective.
Right. It's another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the tool.
So, are you still working with vets on base?
Well, yeah. So I work for VA. I do. I'm an advisor for their benefits. So basically, when people are getting out of the military, I tell them all the different benefits that they are eligible for based on how they're getting out and stuff like that. Do I tell them about this? No, I can't.
No, you're not allowed.
No, I can't.
Really?
Well, this is probably might screw me, but I'm doing something. I did something illegal. You know what I mean? that sucks that I have to like. And a lot of people get really freaked out when they go and do Ibogaine because they worry about their security clearances, things like that. You know, and I mean honestly, like I'm at the point right now, like I'm like I don't care.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like fire me then. You know what I mean? It's not worth it for me to keep my mouth shut.
Right.
You know, it's important that people know that that's out there. And
be an advocate.
Yeah. And I mean, if I get fired for that, I get fired for it. Whatever. It's not.
Even in July.
Yeah. Well, I might be doing the job in Germany. Yeah, so, but I
do not fire this man.
But yeah, I mean, so it's not something when I'm doing my professional work. You know what I mean? Like when I'm working at that job, I understand that that's not the person they hired. They did not hire somebody to kind of advocate for Ibogaine and stuff like that. And I'm getting paid to tell people about their benefits, which are great. They're great benefits for veterans and stuff like that, and stuff like that. So I still feel like I'm helping people out, you know. But yeah, I keep that side on that side.
Right.
You know?
So you basically only talk to like your buddies about it.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, you know, if I'm out and about and I meet somebody, I'm like, hey man, you got to do this stuff.
Right.
I've even had vets who kind of like buddies of mine who are like, I told them about it and they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, you should do it. Like people I know that could really benefit from it. Like, yeah, thanks but no thanks. I'm like, man, you know, so it's just kind of.
It's not widely accepted.
It's not. And I mean, I think that just comes again from society. We've always been taught that a drug doesn't fix a drug, right? But we've been using drugs to fix drugs, opiates, things like that.
Right.
And that's what people like. They don't want you like, oh, you're going to have this existential experience where you're just like completely out there. No, that's not going to fix you. Like, yeah, it will. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, honestly, it just made the way there's no road rage anymore. You know what I mean? I don't have it anymore. You know what I mean? I realize it's just so silly. Like, okay, dude, cut me off. He's obviously going to get there soon.
Yeah, he must have something going on.
And I'll tell you what, you know, I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast, but one of the first things I did when I got back, I sold my gun.
Yeah?
Yeah, I sold my Glock. I decided I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at it, I thought to myself, you know, this gun here, stateside, has never once protected me. All it's ever did was be an exit strategy for life, which is unfortunate, right? Or something that was going to get me in trouble.
Right.
And so I said, I don't need this. And if I get into a situation where I need a gun and I get shot, I guess maybe it's my time. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I didn't want it anymore. You know? And I felt like it was just unnecessary. And it's only ever, been there to get me in trouble. Because, like, you get angry or whatever, right? We're not thinking clearly, right? Oh, yeah, I've got this gun, right?
Right.
Well, the moment you pull it out, you're the person that's the problem.
You're the person going to prison.
Right, exactly. You need somebody else to pull it out first. You know what I mean? Pull theirs out first in order to protect you. And so, it's just not, it's not something I needed anymore. No. I got my dog. He's an attack dog, so, that worked just fine.
Dog is sick. I saw the pictures.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But yeah, man, I really I want to come back on here and talk to you about this and stuff like that. I know our audience is a bit small right now, but if it becomes larger, I want people to know about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even for the small amount of people that do watch this, you know what I mean? This is an option. You don't have to live in misery, whether it be PTSD, addiction, any of that stuff. Right now, it's a bit pricey for sure. It is quite expensive to go down to Mexico and do that. But with advances in technology, with advances in legalization of it, that amount should slim.
Yeah.
It's really just, it saved my life. Truly saved my life. Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you coming on,
Yeah.
telling me all about this, telling the audience about it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to do a remote one in Germany once you get over there, and
Absolutely.
some more shit starts happening, and
It will.
more advancements.
Yeah, I promise you. There's one thing. If you follow me, there's exciting things happening all the time, whether I want them to or not. So, yeah.
Thanks for coming, brother.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.